Let's talk about matter. And specifically, let's talk about comparing solids, liquids, and gases in terms of compressibility, structure, shape, and volume. And you know you have it if you can do two things: identify the properties of solids, liquids, and gases, and be able to organize information about solids, liquids, and gases. Now, solid, liquid, and gas describes what we call the state of matter. And these are the three states of matter that are commonly found in nature. And the different states of matter have different physical properties. So, knowing the state of matter for a substance gives us clues about things like the forces of attraction between the particles, the motion and the behavior of the particles, and the compressibility, how much I can squeeze the material. So, let's start by looking at a solid. A solid is considered a condensed state of matter. And this just means that all the particles are really close together. And in a solid, they're kind of described as being tightly packed together. The intermolecular forces between the particles, this is the forces of attraction, are really strong. And this keeps the particles really close to each other. And it kind of actually keeps them trapped so they can't move past each other. And all they can do is vibrate and shake in place. Now, solids are said to have a definite shape. And this means that a solid has a defined shape. Every solid has its own shape and doesn't need a container. A solid is said to have a definite volume. And this means that the size of a solid doesn't change. And then finally, in terms of compressibility, a solid can't compress. The particles are already so close together that I can't squeeze them closer to each other. And so we will say that solids are not able to be compressed. Now, let's talk about a liquid. A liquid is also a condensed state of matter, but it's a lesser condensed state. And this means that the particles are still close to each other, but they're a little more spread out. If you look at the picture, there's more space between the particles and they look a little more random. And that's because the forces of attraction are medium. So they stay close, but they can kind of spread out. And the particles can actually move around each other. We call this gliding. This is why liquids splish and splash. A liquid has no shape. The liquid has a shape that matches its container. If this container wasn't here, it would just spill out. And so a liquid is said to have no shape, no definite shape. However, a liquid does have a definite volume. And this means that the size of the liquid or the amount of liquid doesn't change just because I have no container or a different container. Now, liquids have a little more space between the particles, so they can compress a little bit more than solids. Now, finally, we have a gas. A gas is not a condensed state, it's a diffused state of matter. And this just means that the particles spread out as much as possible because the forces that hold the particles together are incredibly weak. And this means that the particles are zooming really fast past each other and they don't really interact with each other very much. Because of this, gases have no shape. They just want to spread out and fill as much space as they're given. So they take the shape of their container. They also have no definite volume. A gas has no volume of its own, it takes the volume of its container. And this is the reason that, if your mom is cooking in the kitchen, you can smell it in your bedroom because the gas is spreading out and filling the whole house. Now, because there's a lot of space between the particles, gases can be compressed a lot. I can squeeze a lot of gas into a small area. So, to summarize, there are three states of matter: solid, liquid, and gas.